Hi there, and welcome to Industry Innovators. I'm Nicole Carey, a senior HR consultant with over 15 years of experience working with all kinds of employers, from construction companies, farms, nonprofits, and municipalities. My work focuses primarily on helping teams handle the people stuff. As soon as humans are involved, it can get messy, complicated, and so we help you run that side of your business. That might mean I help with sorting out policies, managing tricky terminations, or helping prevent those surprise walk-offs that can throw your whole team off track. I like to keep things very practical, real, and grounded. I don't use any corporate jargon or fluff. I like to keep things very practical. So today we're going to be talking about something that every employer I can guarantee has faced. It's called managing the modern workforce, and we're going to talk about sick notes, text quits, ghosting, and everything else that goes into managing this modern workforce. We'll dig into these issues, why they're on the rise, what they say about our workplace culture, and how you can set clear expectations that keep communication strong and teams accountable. So like I mentioned, I'm part of the team here at the HR Advantage. We are a team that takes care of HR, payroll, health and safety, and compliance, so business owners like you can focus on actually running your business. We don't just hand over templates or throw legal jargon at you. We really like to work alongside our clients, roll up our sleeves, and so you can get real results. Our goal is quite simple. We take HR and compliance off your plate and handle it proactively so you're never stuck with surprises or last minute scrambles. All right, so running a crew or a small business today looks very different than it did even 5 or 10 years ago. We're seeing more people texting in sick, quitting over text, or in some cases just disappearing without notice. It's incredibly frustrating as employers, but it's also just kind of part of how the workforce and the workplace has shifted. So this guide will help break down what you legally need to do, what you can reasonably expect, and how you can keep things fair without letting the team down. So let's talk about sick notes first of all. So it's important to note that in Alberta, you can require a doctor's note if an employee is sick. However, I really like to preface this by saying it should be situational, and you should really try and balance an employee's privacy with the actual operational need or requirement of a sick note. So for one-off sick days, usually a conversation is enough until it becomes a major issue. Many employers that we see use a general rule of thumb of if someone is out for 3 days or more, then you can ask for a note. But it's really important to consider the cost and the hassle for employees. A lot of clinics charge for notes, and it can range anywhere from like 25. We've seen 150 for a note, and I would really just urge you to consider what the operational need is in that case. And focus more on patterns versus isolated absences. If someone is consistently sick on Fridays or they tend to miss the pay days, like take into consideration those things before you start asking for notes. If you are going to ask for a note, just some things to consider. Request only what's needed, only when it's necessary and reasonable, balancing those privacy rights of the employee with the business needs. And then limit the information you are requested. So as an employer, you are not entitled to a diagnosis. And so this note should confirm the inability to work, if there's any functional limitations, and the expected duration of the absence, but you're not entitled to a diagnosis. And provide some job context. So give the physician a copy of the employee's job description to help them assess the employee's ability to perform their duties. I always use the functional abilities form that's on the Government of Canada website. It's a very good form to pass off to employers. And again, just pairing that with a job description so the physician knows what they're considering when they're filling out those notes. That would be for like a long-term illness or injury, or even a return to work after an illness or injury. And then, like I said, just be reasonable. Consider the administrative burden on the employee and on the medical system, and focus on documentation that supports their successful return to work, or for them to be sort of safely off. So again, instead of making a sick note a part of a battle, maybe focus on patterns. If someone's always sick on Mondays or Fridays, that's worth a talk. 1 or 2 random days off probably isn't worth a sick note. And I like to kind of align it with a flat tire. So if the tire goes flat once, it's really annoying, but it can happen. You just kind of deal with it, move on. If you're patching the same tire every single week, you've got a bigger problem to deal with. So text quits. Believe it or not, a resignation by text is still a resignation. Now, I urge you not to conduct other business around text. We've had issues with contract negotiations through text and things like that that aren't signed. But the text resignation can still count. The law doesn't require them to actually hand you a letter or an email, even if it is more of the polite thing to do and a bit more formal. But what you can do is set the expectation up front. So put it in your handbook or contract, and even just tell new hires, we expect 2 weeks notice when you leave. And that's actually the law according to Alberta employment standards. There is a notice period that employees are required to give, but the fallout is a little bit different than if an employer doesn't align with that versus the employee. But even though a text resignation is still technically a resignation, I would also recommend to anyone that they follow up in person, either over the phone, text, email, or if they come back to the site, like just some way to follow up. Don't burn bridges just because someone texts a quit. It's frustrating, but how you respond sends the message to the rest of the team as well. So thank them for their time, get the things back that you need to get back, and then move on from that situation. So here in the situation where an employee text quits, I just have a professional response. So just let them know, thanks for letting me know, drop your gear by today, wishing you all the best. That's the confirmation that they need that they truly did quit their job. And especially if you have someone, we've had situations in the past where employees will sort of cry wolf and they'll text if they have a close relationship with a manager, they'll text and say like, oh my gosh, I just quit, and they really don't. This really is just the follow up to say, like, when you say those words, you should mean those words. And this is the action that we're going to take. We're going to accept your resignation. We're going to let you know the next steps, i.e. drop your gear by. This is when your last pay will be, whatever those expectations are when someone's leaving your employment. Keep it short, keep it professional, and keep it consistent regardless of regardless of who's sending you that text. And just know that how you respond really does affect your whole crew. So ghosting. This is one of the hardest situations for employers, small, medium, or large. So it's when someone just stops showing up, they won't return your calls, they kind of leave you hanging, it appears to come out of nowhere. Legally, if they don't show up, you can treat it as a resignation eventually, and that takes time and it takes work. And we're going to go over job abandonment in the next section. My advice is here is don't wait weeks hoping that they come back. The sooner you can confirm it's job abandonment, the better, and the sooner you can actually replace them. Have a backup plan if someone starts to no-show. Cross-train your team. Having those layers of redundancy is always helpful if someone is sick or ghosts or is unable to meet that production requirement that you have in your work site. So cross-training is always a good idea. Okay, so job abandonment. Again, this is one of the hardest situations for employers. It's when someone just stops showing up, won't return your calls, and it can feel really personal, but there is a process you can follow so it's always covered. So what the law says in Alberta is that there is no exact definition of job abandonment in the Alberta Employment Standards Code. Now, most employers use the general rule of 3 consecutive no-shows with no contact as job abandonment, but you should have this set out clearly in a company policy that should be notified way up front. Once you've given the employee a fair chance to respond, you can end employment and consider it a resignation. Some steps to take here to make sure that everything is compliant is to document every single thing, note every missed shift, every call or text you sent, whether or not you've got a reply, write it all down. Reach out first. Don't wait for them or assume that they are going to call or text you. Use multiple methods of contact. So call, text, email the employee at least once per missed shift. Keep it very short and professional. Hi, you missed today's shift. Please contact me before tomorrow to confirm your employment, that kind of thing. Set a deadline if you don't hear back. So send a final message. Again, use that general rule of maybe 3 days or 3 shifts, however that looks. And it really depends on the position and the workplace. But just something as simple as, we haven't heard back from you. If you don't contact us by blank, we will consider you to have abandoned your job. This should be done in writing, and there should be sort of an escalating pattern. So the first call should indicate what the next step is. So if you don't call now, we have to give up your shift. If you don't show up for your next shift, we have to consider this next step and have different steps. The final step, always, always, always in writing. Let them know when you've contacted them, when they have not returned your calls, and let them know that if they do not return or call back, then the next step is to consider their employment effectively ended with a date. Always keep a copy. Try and recover any company property that you can. So if they had tools or uniforms or equipment, request that they return it. And if they don't, you cannot deduct from their pay. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Alberta is pretty strict about what you can and cannot withhold, and our friends over in BC are even more strict. So check with what you can deduct. Chances are it might not be a lot. So we all know documentation matters. I wouldn't be a good HR person if I didn't tell you to document everything. But here's why it matters. If you don't document it, it's effectively like it didn't happen. It can look like when someone abandons their job that they maybe were terminated without cause. It can lead to either a wrongful dismissal claim, a complaint to employment standards. It can lead to a bunch of different things that would not be great for you. So a clean paper trail protects you if they later file a complaint. It just kind of covers your butt. You're all set. Also, having clear policies means that the rest of your team knows that you're fair and consistent. And it's about kind of setting that standard expectation that you'd like to see with your team. So again, don't drag it out for weeks hoping they show up. I would say like take action the first missed shift. I mean, best case scenario is they truly just forgot. We can forgive them for being human and we have that great employee back. Worst case scenario, something bad happened to them. Somewhere in the middle is they no longer want to work with you, and they just didn't have the motivation to resign in an effective manner. So don't wait. After that, you can close the file, move forward with finding a replacement, and know that you're effectively covered by the documentation. All right, so the best way to deal with any of the stuff that we've talked about today, whether it's sick notes, text quits, or ghosting, is to prevent the problems before they start and take that proactive approach. The first thing you should do is have a simple attendance policy. So just write something in there that's simple and attainable. Call or text name of your supervisor before your shift if you can't make it. If you wanted to put some time restraints on there, like within 2 hours or of your shift, make sure that you're notifying. That's great, but just have some flexibility there. If I was in a basic car accident on my way to work, obviously I can't give you 2 hours notice. So just be reasonable for what real life can actually throw at you. Set the expectation that you expect notice when they are resigning from their work, and make it I don't want to say make it easy for them to quit, but people move on. You don't have to be bitter about it. And that should just sort of be the culture, is that people are moving on. We don't need to be bitter, and make it a little bit easier for them to resign if they truly are done with the role. And then also have open onboarding conversations right from the beginning. So spend some time with employees when they start, let them know what your expectations are for communication of any sort. Even a small talk on day one can save you a lot of headaches when it comes to calling in sick, what you expect for doctor's notes, that kind of thing. Just set that standard of the expectation of communication, and reciprocate that as well. Let the employees know that you are also holding yourself accountable when it comes to communication and how to communicate effectively. So these challenges are all part of managing today's workforce. Supervisors and managers need to learn how to handle these situations without being emotional, being unfair, or letting resentment spread across the team. None of these things are easy to deal with or something that we hope to see day to day, but they do happen, and we just need to learn how to deal with them and move forward with our team. So make sure your team knows the basics of Alberta employment legislation, know what you can and cannot enforce, what you can and cannot ask for, and build those skills in communication. That's almost the bigger part, is how to have a firm yet respectful conversation with your team when those expectations aren't being met. Train your supervisors to spot patterns early and bring them up before they become full-blown problems. You should be dealing with attendance issues early and often, to either nip them in the bud or move that employee on to somewhere else. This isn't a one and done approach. As the workforce changes and we see more technology and a different standard of expectation of communication and respect, we need to keep aligning with that and growing our organization around those expectations. So keep learning, keep adapting, and most importantly, model the kind of behavior and respect that you would want to see in return from your team. All right, so sick notes, text quits, and ghosting, they really are the reality of today's workforce. As an employer, you can't control how someone leaves or how someone communicates with you, but you can control how you respond. So adapt, be clear, be consistent, keep your cool always. Everyone else is watching you and how you interact with those folks. And so model the type of behavior that you would like to see. They know and they're watching how you handle those situations. So strong leadership can make all the difference in that case for preventing those issues going forward with the team that's affected also by this employee's behavior. So with clear policies, consistent follow through, and just a little empathy, you can manage these modern challenges without losing your mind completely or your best people, quite frankly. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, or you need help navigating tough workplace situations, you can connect with anyone on our team at hello@hradvantageservices.com, or you can check out our website, hradvantageservices.com, for more information if you need it. Mackenzie and I are quite active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with us there. We're happy to connect. If you ever need any help at all, feel free to reach out to us. Any one of these methods will be great. Thank you so much for joining us today for Industry Innovators.